Hello, David.
Hey, how are you?
Hey,
All right, I see, Ms. Pape, I see 5:30. Is that what you have on your
Yes,
clock?
I do.
All right, thank you so much. Let's call the meeting of Office of Emergency Services for October 1st, 2020. Ms. Pape, may I have a roll call, please?
Atherton, Belmont, Brisbane, Burlingame,
Here.
Colma,
here,
Daly City, East Palo Alto, Foster City, Half Moon Bay,
Foster City is here. Sorry.
okay. Half Moon Bay, Hillsborough, Menlo Park, Millbrae, Pacifica,
Yes, here.
Portola Valley, Redwood City.
Here.
San Bruno,
Here.
San Carlos,
I'll be joining later.
San Mateo,
Here.
South San Francisco, Woodside, County of San Mateo.
Present. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We do have a quorum, is that correct?
We do not have a quorum.
We do not have.
Brisbane is here. Brisbane is present.
Millbrae is present.
We have
Sorry,
Brisbane, we
Chair.
have Millbrae,
Half Moon Bay,
Half Moon Bay,
East Palo Alto.
East Palo Alto,
Hillsborough.
Hillsborough.
Did you say Menlo?
Menlo Park, correct?
Menlo Park, Cecilia
Yeah.
Taylor.
Yep.
We now have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. With that, that brings us to item 2. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Hillsborough.
Second, San Bruno.
Pacifica.
Great. So moved by Chuang, seconded by Medina. Roll call, please.
Atherton, Belmont, Brisbane, Burlingame,
It's from Brisbane.
Colma,
aye,
Daly City, East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Aye.
Half Moon Bay,
aye.
Hillsborough,
Aye.
Menlo Park,
Present.
Millbrae, Pacifica,
Here. Yes, I'm sorry.
Portola
We're
Valley,
voting.
Redwood City,
yes,
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos, San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, Woodside, County of San Mateo.
Yes, aye. Motion passes. That brings us to item 3. We have with us the County Manager of San Mateo, Mike Calvi, to talk about something I support and makes a lot of sense. I know many of you have been on county calls, but really the transition from the Office of Emergency Services under the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office to the County Manager's Office. I'm gonna have Mike say a couple words about that. Mr. Callaghan.
Thank you, Supervisor Canup. I really appreciate the opportunity to address all of you and really update you on the move that we're proposing here. As I think everyone knows, the Office of Emergency Services falls under my title as a county manager. So I am the director of the Office of Emergency Services. It has always fallen to this office for that responsibility. And it's been a weird kind of dichotomy of duties here because as a director, I oversee OES, but OES has always been housed with the Sheriff's Office, or at least for the last many years. And the Sheriff and I have a great working relationship. But we've learned a lot of lessons from the COVID experience here in opening the Office of Emergency Service and the EOC, in staffing the EOC. And the sheriff and I sat down and I proposed a change for the actual employees of the office that I received to come under the county managers. It's really just a shift of employees, but also a shift in leadership. And one of the things that we've learned through this, having the EOC open for almost 7 months now, is that there definitely needs to be a consistency in leadership in OES and certainly in any EOC. And the way the sheriff has had it structured out of necessity, of course, has had a rotating captain in there. We both believe, and we've conferred with Supervisor Canup on this, that the county is better served by having one manager in there who has a background in emergency services and who will be there for a longer period of time, and this will be their primary job with the experience that they have, really beefing up the planning and operations and logistics sections that are so important to any EOC operations. So the sheriff and I sat down, we talked about this. He absolutely 100% supports it. Supervisor Canup and I sat down and talked about it at length. He understands the reasoning for this. And essentially really nothing changes other than really the employees of OES falling under the county manager and shifting from the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office will still be there in support. They'll still be housed together. We'll still have the resources that we desperately need from the sheriff, and the sheriff plays such an important part in any type of EOC operation, and they'll maintain that role in EOC operations. We're lucky enough that Dan Belville is somebody I've known for many, many, many years. He was an outstanding leader as the fire chief in the city of San Mateo, and then worked on Foster City, San Mateo Consolidated. He's got many, many years of experience. He was interim chief, I think, at Half Moon Bay and Menlo Park, and he's got absolute expertise in this area. And I know that he is the right guy for the job that'll come in and really take a fresh look with fresh eyes. He's been in there in the EOC for almost 7 months now. He was running county communications before that, so he's been around. He understands. He's seen this building actually be developed from the ground up, and I think that certainly I know that he'll be the right guy to lead the OES into the future here. And we've got some great personnel in there. They will transition over to the county manager's office and work for Dan. And with that, Supervisor Canup, I'm happy to take any questions here.
If you would like to ask questions, please use the raise hand feature. First question is from Ann Keegren, and then we'll move to Janet Borgens.
My question to our county manager, do we have to change our bylaws with this transition?
Councilmember Keegren, I think that might be the case. We have county council looking at that now, and I think it just may be a real change, and just a little change in the language of the bylaws, because I think in your bylaws it does indicate that it falls under the sheriff right now.
Okay, thank you.
Great. That brings us to Ms. Borgens.
Thank you. That was one of my questions. And then just a statement saying we have learned a lot from COVID and how we structure the needs in our community. So thank you. Thank you for this collaboration. I think this is definitely a valuable move. So I really support this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Medina?
Yes, thank you, Chair. To the county manager, how would that change the structure as we see it today, the process, the procedure? I know you said the bylaws / JPA, which would need to go back to each agency of the JPA, which we've already adopted for the next 5 years. So how might that change, and what might we see differently done than we see it today, those of us who've been on the board for a while?
Yeah, it would be an amendment to the JPA, and I think if I'm not mistaken, we can bring that at any time. But we are checking into that, Mayor, and I think it's a great question. that we will look into and certainly report back on the next meeting. We should have a lot better sense of how that would go. You know, as far as how things will be different, I think we'll have stability in leadership in OES with a manager that doesn't rotate out every 4 years or so, because this will be a permanent professional assignment by someone trained in OES and EOC operations. It'll bring a more streamlined approach to decision making. One of the things we found, and one of the things that I did at the beginning of this crisis, when we opened up the EOC, I put Ileana Rodriguez, the deputy county manager, in charge as the chief of the EOC, and that allowed for a more streamlined decision-making process through my office on higher level decisions that needed to be made right away. It was a little bit awkward in the past where you'd have the captain who really reported to the sheriff, and the sheriff certainly doesn't report to me. He's an elected official. So it was really kind of an awkward way to run an EOC as far as the decision-making tree. So right now, Dan Belleville would be the manager of OES, and he would report to directly to a deputy county manager who would report to me.
Okay, thank you. And I know there's still some Homeland Division that's still equipped within that same, but thank you for your answer.
But you're absolutely right. And I just want to say that Homeland Security Division will stay in the EOC and work side by side next to Dan.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to Ann Schneider. Ms. Schneider.
Hi, and thank you. 2 questions. One has to do with, and it seems so long ago, the disaster cleanup function, which takes us outside of the traditional EOC environment. My second question is, where will the NGOs fit? So for example, the Red Cross, the Humane Society, all of those people who, thanks to all of them, if they're on the call, and all of you through all of our multiple disasters. But how will they fit in? And I'm going to just throw this in here from my days of being a Red Cross disaster volunteer. I was doing logistics. We went on one drill and had no attention at all. We weren't brought in. We did another drill with the Menlo Park Fire Department where we were really incorporated. Now, I know we're not needing to do drills now, but hopefully we're going to come back to the day where we'll have a few years of nothing but drills. So I'm glad to hear you're from Menlo Park, because that was truly a great learning experience.
Well, yeah, Councilmember Schneider, I mean, I look forward to those days where we can really do more drills, even though we've been open and operational for the longest period in the history of San Mateo County. There's a lot of things that we've learned and that we can do different operationally and work with our community to prepare them a little bit better. I've got to say that the Red Cross is an incredible partner of ours, and they would still fall under OES and the EOC and really work with the EOC when they're operational. And OES would continue that partnership with them. I got to see them in action firsthand during the fires here at the hotels, welcoming people, and what an incredible role they play. But all those partners would still be in place. And really the relationship with the Sheriff's Office has never been stronger. We're very close partners with them. So the search and rescue aspect of things would remain with the Sheriff's Office, because that's really a sheriff function. But they may, on a search and rescue operation, may have to open the EOC depending on what it is. And we would work in collaboration with them.
I know you all have been crazy busy, and I'm so grateful for all of you. When you get a chance, could you perhaps create an org chart? Because I have to go back and explain it to my city manager and my fellow council members, and that would be really helpful.
Absolutely, it's a good suggestion. Yep.
Thank you to all of you. Great job.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much, Mike. I do think this shift is really, really positive. You know, in the pandemic, you really learn a lot, right? And I think the county has learned, I think cities have learned, you know, how do we work within this context? If we didn't have the pandemic, we may not be having this conversation, but actually learning from it is going to make us stronger organizationally, and that's important. I want to thank you for your time, Mr. Callaghy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Supervisor Canepa, and you're absolutely right. I think Mr. Belleville would like to say a few words, if that's okay with you.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Supervisor Canepa and to the Board of Supervisors, thank you so much for your confidence in this change, and to Mr. Callaghy, my boss. I feel fairly comfortable in this role because I've been in this business for 4 decades now, about 95% of it in San Mateo County. I've had a long-standing great relationship with law enforcement throughout the county, of course, the fire service and the EMS group, and have worked very closely with all the folks in OES for a number of years. So it's a very natural fit. In addition to serving as a fire chief in San Mateo, I also served as the emergency services coordinator, the equivalent to OES in the city of San Mateo. So I'm comfortable in the role, and I can tell you that we've been at this for 7 straight months. I think we're either 24 or 48 hours away from starting our 8th month, 7 days a week in the EOC, dealing with COVID and dealing with the fire, 2 of the biggest incidents I've ever experienced in my career. And I can very confidently say with great respect that it's been an amazing operation. The things that have gone in here for the past 7 months have been absolutely incredible. With Mike as our leader and the Board of Supervisors' support to do what we've done, everything from homeless to protection to feeding people and to making sure that they get proper medical care. But we still have a lot to do. We still have more of COVID. We're going to hit the flu season. We have vaccinations. We have the rain and storm season coming ahead, and we're going to get significant flooding with some of these burned out areas. So we have lots of work to do. We're not going to turn the switch off. I will be in here working with the folks in OES, and I'm proud to be with them. And we're going to continue to roll up our sleeves and do lots of work. I would like to thank Captain Kirkpatrick. He will remain as my partner on the Homeland Security side. He couldn't make it this evening, but we have a great relationship, so it should be a very seamless transition. And I do think that we're going to be able to get a lot of work done. Really, we just need more time so we can get some of these things done. But you're going to be in good hands, I promise. It feels good to be back here with the Emergency Services Council. I started in the first hazmat team in San Mateo County in 1984 and used to do the report out. So it's nice to see all of you again. I'm familiar with you and what your role is. And would just like to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity. I promise we'll do a good job for you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. We're looking forward to having you, and it's the future for this board and then for the county is going to be very, very bright. So thank you very much, Mike. Thank you as well. Really appreciate your time. So
Supervisor?
Yes, Dan.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could I ask one more question? And it might be to you or to County Manager Callaghy. I had sent you a suggestion for emergency services, a group that I used when I was a staffer at San Jose in the '89 earthquake. And that was the Conservation Corps. My crew members went out and did mudside cleanup after the '89 earthquake. They were mine because they were running a recycling program for me. I would love to be able to speak with someone. It's for people who don't know what the Conservation Corps does, it's a job training program for at-risk youth, male and females, sometimes 60, really 18 to 24-year-olds. So it gives them work ethics. It lets them finish their GED. If they're in gangs, it helps get them out of gangs. And they provide really critical work in disasters, at least my experience in '89. And the current executive director, Dorsey Moore at San Jose Conservation Corps, is one of my former employees. I was hoping we could get him up for a future meeting or something where we can begin to talk about that. But right now, when we have so many people out of work, this is a chance that we can become stronger, more resilient, and get some young people some work.
And I think the best thing, is to I think I have that email. Let me forward it to Dan and the team. Let's have them look at that. Maybe you can engage with them. And if it makes sense, we'll put it on a future agenda. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. And for staff, I'm here as a resource. I'm a big fan of the Conservation Corps. All of them. I've worked with East Bay. I've worked with San Francisco, all 3 of the local Conservation Corps.
All right. All right. See no more questions. Thank you again. That brings us to item 4, update on the CZU fire. Chief Cox.
Thank you, Supervisor Canepa, honorable members of this council. I apologize for my words. I'm back at another fire up here in the North Bay. Obviously, we just can't get a break right now, but happy to be here and present to you a little bit of an update on the CZU fire, kind of a timeline, what happened, some learnings, and answer any questions that you might have. The good news is that we are 100% contained on that fire. And I will just try to share my screen with everybody. Can everyone see that? All right. And we will start. Can you see that, Supervisor?
Perfect.
Great. Okay, so just want to start off with what happened. As everyone remembers, on the night of Saturday, August 15th, going into the 16th, we had that large lightning storm that came through Northern California. 12,000 plus lightning strikes across the state that sparked 585 wildland fires. 24 of those became major incidents, and what we consider major is going beyond the first operational period and becoming extended. And 300 of those lightning strikes were in San Mateo and Santa Cruz County. We took really a direct hit when it came to lightning. As far as the two counties, San Mateo and Santa Cruz, we had 27 confirmed fires between the two counties within 12 hours. To give you a point of reference, we have 13 wildland engines in the two counties. And so you can see straight off the bat, we were outnumbered by the number of fires we had compared to the resources. This all came on top of fuels that are drought stricken, relative humidities that were at 4%, and a week of temperatures that were above 100 degrees. And maybe most important to note is that there was no coastal fog for almost a week before these fires started. So the normal moisture recoveries we got at night were not there. With that, here's some of the shots within the county. That shot on your left is actually at San Mateo County Fire Station 17 up on Palos Canal Drive, looking out towards the watershed. On the right is looking from Santa Cruz, looking north towards San Mateo County into our mountainous areas. The decision was made about 3:30 a.m. that morning of the 16th to implement the local lightning plan. And what a lightning plan is really the ability for us at a very early stage to coordinate lightning based on geographical areas. And what happens is our battalion chief for each of those battalions becomes the branch director for all of the fires that are within that geographical area. So we implemented that plan, and by 5 o'clock, we had all of our branches engaged. This photo right here is actually a photo from early that morning at sunrise. We were getting hundreds of calls for fires throughout the county. We held all of our firefighters on duty that morning, and we called in all the 3 volunteer companies that we rely on in those rural areas. Kind of anecdotally, I came in right at sunrise down 280, going down the watershed corridor on 280 there. Checked in with my battalion chief, and he had 5 fires within the watershed. We called for mutual aid from the Central County Fire for one of those fires off of Truesdale. We called for mutual aid from Woodside for one of the fires on the North Lake side of the watershed. And that was before we were even looking at the coast. So I think maybe it goes unnoticed, but some significant fire potential was extinguished at a very early stage on the bay side based on that mutual aid that was really effective in those early hours. With that, the volunteers that we did employ, the La Honda Volunteers, Kings Mountain, and Loma Mar, they were crucial in helping us get to those 27 fires and keep them small. There's no substitute for getting in there and putting the tree out or putting the small fire out and preventing it from becoming a big one. And something that I think is very important to highlight is just their work. This is me driving down Highway 1 to our command center, and that's looking at Waddell Creek drainage. This is right at the county line, just south of Año Nuevo. That is one of the fires that was relatively inaccessible. To my left, there were another 3 that were inaccessible. With that, this is the fire that maybe was the most inaccessible, is the Upper Butno. That is looking up from kind of the lower skyline area southwest. This is Chief Brian Ham's vehicle, and he was the branch director out there looking southwest, and that was a fire up on the Buteno Ridge. This is actually Brian's handwritten map from that first day. This is the fire 515 and 518 that he was working on. They were about 80 acres apiece, and there were 2 of 5 large fires, and they were burning in heavy timber. This isn't a fire that is 5 acres of grass or brush. This is 3 to 6 feet of understory duff, inaccessible timber. But it's important to note on the first day, it wasn't burning at an extreme rate of spread. It wasn't burning quickly. It wasn't burning aggressively, but it was just creeping around. The issue that became is we put an order in for aircraft, strike teams, and a significant resource order that first day for additional resources. As you can imagine, we were one of 24 major fires going across the state. And there were just hundreds and hundreds of requests for resources. So we were limited, like everybody else was limited in the Bay Area for resources. We did continue to place those large requests throughout. This is what it looked like when it was burning at those 80 acres. As you can see, there's no crowning. It's a very low intensity burn. It's not what we call mean smoke. It's not dark, it's not black, but it's really just an understory forest floor burn. And at the same time our fire was creeping, we had other fires in the Bay Area that really exploded, Lake Napa, as well as Santa Clara. And the way that fires get prioritized, the resources get allocated towards where the greatest threat to public and infrastructure and structures are. And obviously ours were burning in fairly remote areas. This is another look at the same area when it was a low intensity burn. This is the looking north, that's the upper Buteno right there. That fire is, again, a ground fire backing down towards the Buteno community, and the wind is pushing it north. This photo I put in here is really just to give you an idea. This is the first flight we took, and we were able to fly it on Monday. And this is looking to our left is the fire that we call the Olmo, and the right is the Buteno, and we're flying north right now. Off to our left right now is essentially parts of Santa Cruz County. This is when we knew that the fire was going to become significant, is when we started to see just how out-resourced we were. And that's when we started to really get in contact with all of our counties, all of our cooperators, and start to lay the groundwork for the potential that this could turn into a major incident. Again, still burning at a slow rate of spread. This is just looking at a photo of one of the volunteer engines on one of the 27 fires. And by late Monday, we had it pretty well identified that we had 5 major fires that had the potential to turn into a very big incident. These are the three red spots on here are the 3 fires that we identified as the major fires in San Mateo County, what we call the 515, the 518, and the 514. They were burning upper Buteno and the Olmo areas in a fairly remote part of San Mateo County, ironically an area that burned about 100 years ago in that area as well, is where there was some fire history. That's what we were looking at on Monday the 17th, those little green dots as far as our 3 major fires, about 860 acres total. And that was the last photo of the night on Monday looking south. We're basically right above Lomamar in that photo. You're looking south on the Buteno Ridge, you see 2 fires, the Olmo to the right, and then even further out there, you see that fire that we saw originally on Highway 1, which was the Waddell fire burning along the coast there. On Tuesday, this is another look at the same area we were just looking at from Monday. We saw the fire activity was increasing. The fire was continuing to push to the south. The south is to our right here. And we started to get multiple spot fires. So our resources were chasing fires out in front of the main fire. And obviously access in and out of those areas is extremely limited for us. By that evening, we were up to about 5,500 acres total. There are the 3 fires up top, and the 4th is the Waddell that grew along the county line there. And Tuesday evening is when the fire really started to continue to push south. That's looking up there at about 7 p.m. I should say the 18th, not the 28th. And this is looking in that afternoon from Cloverdale Road out just south of Pescadero south. And by this point, we had ordered a type 1 incident management team. They were mobilized to come and take command of the incident. The fire made a significant run on that Tuesday. This is actually, I believe, Last Chance Community Road, just off of Swanton Road. And you can see when it started to impact some of those areas that it was really burning at a rapid rate of spread in fuels that were completely beyond our capabilities to extinguish. So on Wednesday, a Type 1 team took command. The fire had spotted 6 miles ahead of itself, and the fire burned more than 45,000 acres in a 24-hour period. I think what's important to recognize is in that 24-hour period, we made contact with the county manager's office, County Manager Callaghy. We were in contact with Dan Belleville. We were on constant communication with the sheriff's office and Captain Lopez. And we made some pretty significant decisions to evacuate some very large geographical areas in the county. And I will say, as someone who is passionate about effective evacuations, it was one of the most robust and smoothest processes I've ever seen. And I think it's really a testament to the team that the county has around evacuations that we were able to pull it off successfully. This is looking at night into Wednesday morning. This is our Bonnie Doon Alert Wildfire camera. It's probably the best indication about what conditions looks like on the hilltops that's sitting in the community of Bonnie Doon. This right here is a video just in that area, the conditions that our firefighters were in. This video itself was taken with 2275 Alpha strike team from San Mateo County as they made some pretty significant saves throughout the fire. One of the things we did see is the Big Basin State Park get heavily impacted by this fire. This video here is some of our firefighters that night while they were trying to save the headquarters. They were retreating. The bangs you hear are trees coming down. And these fires really, or that fire specifically, cut their access off from the park, and they had to ride that fire out in that area. And I can only imagine that it was not something that they want to repeat. Obviously, evacuation orders went out in Santa Cruz County as well during this time. By the end of the 19th, we were at 49,000 acres, and we had that significant growth down into the Bonnie Doon community, as well as down towards the San Lorenzo Valley. That's Thursday, August 20th, looking south again from San Mateo County. You can kind of see some of the original fires that we had that pushed south and the fire behavior that we saw. At our height, we had over 77,000 people evacuated between the two counties. I believe in San Mateo County, I believe we were about 7,000 in our county. The majority of them were in Santa Cruz County. The fire just continued to grow. It didn't grow at a very extreme rate of spread after that initial big run that it made on that Tuesday. It just slowly gained day over day. And this is a good visualization of the fire itself. You'll see those red dots of the confirmed lightning strikes that we had in the unit. And then you can see the fires as they progress, kind of summarizing everything that I've explained. This is the county line right here. So these fires were all the strikes in San Mateo County that we saw. And you can see the color start as the dates change as far as the fire progression. That was that Tuesday evening where the large fire growth happened, and the next several days. At its peak, when we had a lot of structures threatened, we had over 10,000 structures threatened with less than 600 firefighters for that job. So you can only imagine how outpaced we were by this fire. And as I like to say, throughout the incident, Mother Nature was completely in control of this. We were really just trying to do as much as we could to get people out of the way and protect as many structures as we could. I think one of the things I just want to highlight before I wrap up is this county took pretty aggressive action over the last 18 months to implement a evacuation management system. And I don't think enough credit can be given to Supervisor Horsley and Supervisor Canepa for their co-sponsoring of this to be a platform for all jurisdictions to use in the county. We were about 6 weeks away from releasing it publicly when we called Zone Haven and said, this is the real deal. Can we go? And they did. They stepped up to the plate for us, and it was a very, very valuable tool, not only for us to communicate internally as a county and first responders, but also for the public to have a resource to go to. And there's just a great little video here that looks at, these are the evacuations that we called for. You can see the red is the evacuation order as the fire grew. And it paints the story of how we were getting people out of harm's way as the fire progressed. And it also gave people, no matter where they were in San Mateo, Santa Cruz, or Santa Clara counties, one place to go to, a single point of information for both their evacuation status, as well as kind of fire information as well. So a pretty big win in my eyes as far as how we were able to collaborate across counties to be successful evacuations, and look forward to where that's going. In fact, I was just in the trailer behind me here at this fire, and Charlie Crocker from Zone Haven is here on this incident now, working with Sonoma, Napa, and Lake counties on the management evacuation. So I'm glad that we're a part of that. Just to summarize, resources from throughout the state, including a lot of resources from San Mateo County. I made several, I hit the helpline a couple times in moments of desperation when we were really getting outflanked by this fire. Jeff Bolton from Redwood City Fire Department had the op area coordination for the week, and he stepped up, and every fire department that we asked for assistance continuously provided assistance from San Mateo County. And I know we have a good fire program in San Mateo County, but it was just it can't be overstated just how helpful it was to have the resources available on such short notice. We got up to about 2,300 personnel on the fire by the end of it. Just for a point of reference, on the Kincaid fire last year, we had about 6,500 firefighters on it. So this just paints the picture of how slim resources are and continue to be across the state. And I also just want to call out the volunteers. We talk about the volunteer firefighters. Just a little anecdotal story up there on that left-hand corner is Andrew and Ronald, his dad. Those are a father-son pair who live out in Lomamar. Lomamar is a community of 150 people between La Honda, Pescadero. They're part of the county fire department. Ronald and Andrew were on the fire for 2 weeks straight. Obviously, they're just volunteers, along with Chris Connor, the volunteer chief out there, helped to protect that community, as well as all the other volunteer fire companies, ham radio operators, Coastside Certs, Puente, just an amazing representation of people stepping up in a moment of need. And I think this was that moment that we all feared. And I can't say enough about how strongly the volunteer organizations really were able to provide assistance. So just in kind of summary, we sent out information 112 times on this incident. Quite a few of those were coordinated with Jeff Norris in the OES office and SO to make sure we were sending a coordinated message when it came to evacuation orders and warnings and whatnot. The final acreage ended up being 65,509. 22,755 of that is in San Mateo County. That is the largest fire in San Mateo County recorded history. The largest fire past that was about 15,000 acres, and this far surpassed that. 1,490 structures were destroyed. 59 of those were in San Mateo County. And obviously this incident will remain an issue for us as we get into the rainy season and we look at debris flow and what that might mean. At its peak, we were in unified command with a lot of agencies, CAL FIRE, obviously, San Mateo County Fire Department, County SO, as well as some volunteer agencies from Santa Cruz County. And the fire cost about $60 million in total, all in, with all of the equipment and resources that we had there. Unfortunately, we did have a large structure loss down in the Santa Cruz County area. With that, this is a look at what the hills look like now up there. This is looking south of Año Nuevo, above Big Basin, looking to the north. There was a lot of both old growth and second growth redwood in that area. They believe that a lot of the old growth will survive, but a lot of the knob cone will not. The burn severity is pretty catastrophic on that hillside. And this was a fire that I don't think we would have ever anticipated for both size and magnitude. And this is just an example of kind of the aftermath right now. This is Butano Colony, a little community down outside Pescadero. That was a fire weakened tree. As you can imagine, these are very old trees that have the propensity to fall when this happens. And just to close it out, a couple things I'd like to highlight is San Mateo County and Supervisor Canepa, along with his colleagues, made a decision about 18 months ago to heavily invest in both the county fire department and CAL FIRE. And really, Supervisor Horsley was very astute in his fear of a large and destructive fire in the county. Their dedication to a 6-year plan actually laid the framework for the last 12 months for the wildfire risk reduction program that we've been implementing throughout the county. And some key positions in that were invaluable, both on the information side, the forestry assistance side, and just the resource side, the Measure K apparatus that we have. So although it was a large, historic, and damaging event, I think it could have been a lot worse had there not been a lot of thought and process and investment in the county. And unfortunately, we are just 86,000 acres of what is going to be 4 million acres of California that burns this year. The biggest fire year in California history. The largest one behind that is 1.5 million acres. And I think the biggest thing that concerns us at this point is we're only at the beginning of October, and we have some months left ahead of us that are highly concerning. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with everybody here. And again, can't express my gratitude and thanks enough for all the agencies that did assist us.
Great job, Jonathan, not only with the presentation, but really communicating not only to the board, but to other cities, and just really, the communication from CAL FIRE. You guys had daily press conferences, your Twitter, your social media. I think your transparency in those platforms really kept all of us informed. So kudos to you, and kudos to the staff. I really think, and obviously extinguishing the fire and working with the resources that you had, I just think CAL FIRE has just done an incredible job. So with that, do we have any questions? Anyone want to jump in? I see any hands? All right, I don't see any hands. Chief Cox, I want to just thank you, okay?
Thank you, guys.
Supervisor Canepa, I'm sorry, I'm just way up at the top.
You're up the top, okay.
I'm at the top there. Chief Cox, thank you, and thank you to everybody. You did an amazing job, and you're still doing an amazing job. I know it is not time yet to debrief, but at some point, all of you need to debrief. And remember that workshop that you helped with at CSM about 2 years ago? Councilwoman Chung from Hillsborough were there. We talked about better fire warning systems. And if you could put it in the back of your mind, how many of us need to do that? Where do we need to put them? We're rebuilding our water tanks up along 280 because they're not currently earthquake safety. But to me, those are perfect opportunities for us to put those 2 warning systems that were talked about at that workshop. But I think all of our cities are going to be on lean budgets, but I jump this to the head of the pile. Whatever you think we need to do, if you can tell me I can at least get Millbrae working on setting aside those funds to get those monitoring devices, and anything else you think we need to do. I know we're going to go through at least another 3 months, but we had the San Bruno fire, was that February of this year? The first fire of the season. So there may not be any breathing time.
Right. Yeah, happy to help however I can.
Just tell us what we need to do for you.
Thank you.
All right.
I have just a question. I just want to thank you for the presentation. And as we prepare and we know that more fires are coming, some of my concern is just the air quality with all of the fires, and how do we inform residents when they should shelter in place, or how they're supposed to handle that. Supervisor Canepa, I don't know if there's a good question for that, but
yeah,
that is indeed one of my biggest questions of residents and air quality with the fires.
Jonathan, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, just, I think, the unfortunate part is we have no control over this air quality issue. I think it is forcing people, and I'll give you my own version of it. I am so numb to air quality working on all of these fires, but it wasn't until I went home and went off duty for 2 days and was just talking to my wife and saying, the air is terrible. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's been like this for, a month. So I get it. I'm jaded by the fact that as a firefighter, I'm around it way more often. But I do think this plays into the whole bigger conversation of how can we be more proactive so that we, either burn or do vegetation management in a way that prevents these larger fires from happening and having these, stifling months of fire. Because it's not sustainable. We can't live indoors for months on end. And I think that definitely is a part of the conversation at a higher level at Sacramento as the greater strategy is thought about, because that's where the rubber meets the road for millions of people, not just a few thousand.
We're having conversations, so I sit on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And so obviously there's the technology around air quality monitoring. You heard there's Purple Air, the district. We actually have our own, meteorology department, spare the air days, really making sure that people are aware and amplifying what people should do, obviously staying indoors. We had wanted to run a bill through the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but seeing what we can do to make sure that schools have filters. So if people didn't have a safe place, and some schools do have filters, others don't, but really, making sure these are places that people could congregate for better air. And so the conversation continues on multiple levels, but you're right. I mean, dealing with the air quality is really a serious issue. And where it was confusing a little too, what mask do you wear, right? And it's different than what you may wear for COVID-19. I think that conversation needs to continue, but it needs to be heightened. And so your point is really happy that you brought that up. It's an important issue to deal with. Are there any other questions for the chief? All right. Thank you so much, Chief Cox. Stay safe. Please stay safe. And hopefully you'll get some sleep in the near future.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Colleagues, that brings us to item 5, the grand jury report, SMC alert. And I would like, I think, Kevin Rose or staff to present on this item.
Yes, good evening, Supervisor Canepa. If you'll give us a second to bring up the PowerPoint presentation. I'm sorry,
bottom left, bottom center, screen share. Screen share. Oh. And select these slides. That's second row on the left. And advance one, please. And you're back in business.
Okay, can you see the slides now, Supervisor?
Absolutely, yes, we can.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, honorable members. Lesson 1, never present after Chief Cox. On August 24th, as I shared with you the link, our San Mateo County Grand Jury conducted a report on SMC alert. Emergency alerts, more people need to know. Basically what it tackled was how SMC alert compares to other counties and if there are any other methods to promote the program itself. The good news is that we have one of the highest subscription rates in the Bay Area and our region. And SMC alert is the most widely used for sending alerts. In other words, the county has 20 cities, keep our residents informed. And that is more evident as we witnessed through through COVID and also through the CZU fire. So basically the question that was asked of the grand jury was, how can resident participation in the SMC alert system be increased? What we've done tonight is basically providing just a brief description of the 4 recommendations that were made and the responses that we have accordingly. The first one was a recommendation by the end of this year, that OES should publish the SMC alert enrollment data on its website with at least yearly, preferably, and quarterly updates. So we partially agreed with this. While we won't post the data on our website at this time, especially during the transition that we're going through, at the suggestion of ESC, we will produce quarterly reports and share with ESC and the city emergency managers, and we will continue to provide data upon request. It actually is public information. A lot of cities are aware of it, and what we appreciate is that we'll make sure that more about this report is known and shared accordingly. Because one of the things we also were doing was almost on a monthly purpose, providing the updates to ESC. The other three recommendations actually I'll have is Jeff Norris from our office, more the technical expert and overseeing all of alert and warning, provide the remainder of the recommendations, and then I'll provide a summary towards the end with any questions. So Jeff?
Thank you. And I have followed Chief Cox on a couple of occasions at various events. It's actually an honor to be on the same platform with him. So the second recommendation from the grand jury recommended that we pursue obtaining data from cellular carriers, as well as utilizing the measures from 2018 Senate Bill 821. Next slide, please. So we partially agreed with this finding. There's a typo. It says 831. Sorry, there's a typographical error I just spotted in this slide. We partially agreed with this finding in that Senate Bill 821 from 2018 did allow access to certain utility data for purposes. It had some ambiguous language. Between the time that the grand jury issued this report and literally 2 weeks ago, when the governor signed Assembly Bill 1069, that language was clarified and cellular carriers were defined as utilities that we could obtain data from. Now that goes into effect in January, and so I'm already reaching out to some of our larger carriers to see how we can obtain data from them. Next slide, please. Thank you. The third recommendation was to enhance multi-language messages. Now, the Office of Emergency Services has put an extensive effort into advancing our ability to do messages in both English and Spanish, and we've actually put a number of alerts out in both English and Spanish, quite a number. However, next slide, please. This is very difficult for us because we are just one of 20 municipalities and a number of special districts that have the ability to put messages onto the system when it is an emergency. And these messages are very, very time sensitive. So some of these agencies simply don't have the capacity, the training, or the skills to be able to rapidly translate these messages. We're looking into some other tools to help make it more feasible to have multi-language messages that are a little closer to automated. Next slide, please. So going one further, there was a recommendation that we look not just at English, Spanish, Chinese, and Tagalog as the 4 predominant languages in the county, but that we look to the other between 20 and 30 recognized languages in the county. Next slide, please. So this one we strongly disagree with. The attempt to make a message in an emergency into that many languages is nearly impossible and is going to create massive delays in getting these messages out. So when we have these high urgency messages, and it is so important to get them out quickly, our continued efforts to get to the 4 primary languages of the county, we're going to continue with that, and hopefully we're going to be able to implement something that's more automated, so it will be easier to do.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. So though the timing was a little difficult with the report's release occurring during our response with COVID and the fire response, to be truthful, we were very appreciative that the grand jury gave their time, attention, and interest into exploring SMC Alert with us. Not only with regards to OES, they also interviewed the Woodside Fire Protection District and the city of Half Moon Bay to get a perspective from our cities of the system and how well it's doing. They also reached out to Sonoma County and Santa Clara County, our partners, to share with them about SMC Alert improvements that they can make to their own systems, and then some suggestions that led to the report's recommendations for our system as well. They reached out to Cal OES. Cal OES got to learn a little more about SMC Alert, which was fantastic. And then they also reached out to a legislative aid, which we believe was for State Senator Hannah Beth Jackson. She's been a champion of alert billing up in the legislature, and Jeff has presented on some of the panels. So all in all, with regards to the recommendations, a lot of this is what we're doing. Some that we can't necessarily do because of the baseline of the system, but very appreciative of how well the SMC Alert system is doing, the attention that it received, and the continued effort that we will have on promoting the system. So Supervisor, if there's any questions.
Do we have any questions? I saw in the chat, Sue Barros talking about the low participation. I had the opportunity to look at some of the cities that are, not doing so well. I guess my question is, Jeff, and Jeff, you really become sort of the expert in all of this. Do you think, obviously the opt-in, that's a big lift, and we can't scale as much. Do you think we'll ever get to opt out, or what's your sense on that?
Well, we actually already have 2 opt-out systems at our disposal. We have our reverse 911 data, which we obtain from AT&T on a monthly basis, which is wireline phones. And then we also have access through FEMA, Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, access to the WIA. WIA is wireless emergency alerts. It's very similar to what you've probably seen as an Amber Alert. It's opted out on the device, and it uses the device's ability to know that it's within the area that is supposed to receive the message. We also have had some research into using some utility data. We actually started on a project to use some of the utility data, and then because of the language, that final language that came from Measure 821, we had a stall in that while we waited for the clarification that literally the governor just signed for us 2 weeks ago in Assembly Bill 1069, which will take effect in January. That language clarification makes using opt-out data much easier for us to accomplish.
Are there any more questions? All right. I don't see any hands.
Supervisor Kemp, I had a question. I did the raise hand in the chat thing. Sorry about that. I think Ann's got a hand raised too.
Yeah,
So.
you're right. Sorry about that, Adam.
Different Ann.
Ann Keegren, not you, Ann Schneider.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Ann.
I just had, is it possible, I appreciate the report and the updates. Can we get updated numbers? I don't know the last time we've seen those in terms of where the participation is for the cities and stuff. And then just, I know for us in San Carlos, and obviously there's a cost to it, we've been fairly successful to get people signed up for things when we do postcards to all the residents. That seems to work for us. There's obviously a cost. Get something in the mail, they seem to be more likely to respond and act. So I just throw that out as a suggestion.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Rack. Indeed, what we'll do is I think we did provide it to the ESC, and we'll make the data available again. The most recent data Jeff was able to pull out was from September 29th, and the comparison to the beginning of the year. There is one thing to point out in the grand jury report where they had the numbers wrong. At the time, they had us listed an enrollment rate of 10.6%, where we were actually at 14.4 with Nixle. We did this year with grant funding, assistance of Kathy Pape and Jeff, to find SMC Alert materials to share. This was at a recommendation of ESC. somewhat of going after the kids to get the kids to get the parents to sign up. But for 2020, a continued campaign, absolutely, these would be items of interest. Everything else?
Oh, that's
okay. Yeah. So thank you, Councilman.
Ms. Keegren.
My question is in regards to the report. It mentions that Sonoma County is looking into gathering data information from the Santa Rosa Water District in addition to PG&E. Those are really good resources, but I'm a little concerned that many renters don't have to pay those utilities, so they get excluded from those data banks. So I wonder if we've considered or if it's possible to get data from the DMV and voter registration.
So my counterpart in Sonoma County, basically alert and warning in the 12 Bay counties, there are 12 of us who run our systems. We all know each other, we're all friends, we all work together, we all share our best ideas. And Sonoma County realized early on that, as you said, water data is not reliable. Nor is electrical data. In the case of like an apartment building, you could have a building management firm which receives the entire bill, and that is parceled out to the individual occupants of the building as part of their annual monthly rent. So that is not a reliable source of data. Now, neither Bills 821 nor 1069 approached either voter registration or DMV information. So that is something that can be pursued in the future. We would need to reach to our friends in the legislature to see if they would back expanding the language yet again to make those available to us. And that would be a marvelous resource if we could get it.
Thank you, Jeff.
I don't see any hands up. All right. Thanks so much, Jeff. Thank you, Kevin, for the presentation. Jeff, can you continue to stay in touch with Senator Hannah Beth Jackson? I know you've testified in front of a committee with her, but if we could just, continue that relationship as potential bills move forward and just to monitor and track, I think that would be helpful, okay?
Supervisor, I wish I could. Senator Jackson, who I think of as a very good friend of ours, is terming out.
Oh.
And I hope that there is a successor who is every bit as passionate a champion for alert and warning.
Can you, and then we'll end this conversation, can you see who on the bills on the assembly side was the sponsor, and then just shoot me an email, okay?
Oh, absolutely, sir.
There might be we may have to go that direction. All right, so that brings us to item 6, the public safety power shutoff update.
Thank you, Supervisor Kevin Rose again. So for this report and update, in the fall of last year, OES was fortunate enough actually have a draft, what we call as a de-energization plan in place, including communication strategies that were agreed upon by the county and all 20 cities in the summer leading up to it. Why were we lucky and fortunate? It was because of the fact we were not even on PG&E's radar with regards to potential threat of public safety power shutoffs. They were looking more to the East and North Bay with regards to our close proximity and region, and then more so within the valley. So given the fact that San Mateo County wasn't even on the radar, we still had 3 public safety power shutoff events in October of 2019. And we had that draft plan basically to put into motion that worked fairly well. So after the last lights were turned on in October, we held a series of debriefs with internal and external partners and had numerous meetings with PG&E and their series of workshops that they provided as well. They went back to the works for their response. And so the result for PG&E was a draft policies and procedures plan that they had developed in July that we in turn did a very quick, rapid turnaround in our final draft in August. And I call it final draft because of the fact that PG&E, as you see, their July plan is considered a draft in progress. And so this month or next, what they're supposed to be finalizing this plan, and we already have in place what they have changed, what we have changed for the county plan and how we're going to respond. We shared this with our department heads. We shared this with your city emergency managers, and we'll share this with you after this meeting of the county's plan. If there's any changes that need to be made, we'll do so, and we'll notify you based upon what PG&E might do. And so because of that, what I wanted to do is use this presentation while the information shared with the county departments and the city emergency managers were more operational in manner. This one I wanted to provide to you what PG&E has changed on their side that is going to be reflective in what we do for our planning. So first and foremost, as everyone has had to do because of this pandemic, basically adapt all plans to be COVID proof. And this really impacted more the community resource centers of how we have to handle social distancing, PPE, and individuals that might be vulnerable towards being in a public setting. Interestingly enough, this is something that we had to enact with the assistance of Dan Belleville and Ileana Rodriguez for the local assistance center for the fires. So we very much understand what needs to be done with PG&E for that aspect. And sorry for all the writing, but I wanted this to be your notes to bring back to your cities as well. The second aspect is lessening the PSPS impact to the customers. So they're doing more system hardening. PG&E, they're also doing a lot more rerouting. And what this is doing is basically shrinking the geographic area that would be impacted versus, for instance, last year where they were larger footprints when they chose to turn the power off. What they're also doing is increasing resources with regards to restoration time. They've hired more crews to help out. They've increased their air fleet. And fortunate for us is beforehand, they would only have daylight hours basically to do that line by line inspection before they started restoration. Now they have equipment with infrared so they can actually continue when safe to conduct the inspections at night. And they're even trying to post numbers of 12 hours, within 12 hours to inspect the lines as long as there's no impact, which of course would extend beyond the typical daylight hours. This piece of providing more accurate and timely communications is what really was integrated into our plan. Improving their website, putting on the cloud because it had crashed the first few PSPS events. They're using more weather science basically to do a outlook projection. So this website, pgne.com/weather, they have areas broken down into sectors within their Northern California region. And if certain weather events show that there might be a possibility, they will send updates indicating that the 7-day weather outlook is looking in advance about any potential events. They're increasing their social media presence. They would post some things on Facebook, some things on Twitter, something on Nextdoor. This is basically a full blast because what they've realized, as many of you know, Facebook and Twitter are very different demographics that you reach. And so send it out to all of them. Increasing their media outreach for multicultural media, providing more information with multiple languages. And then with our plan, what it really works on is the 72 hours out and everything that will transpire since then, the PGA will provide. So they're going to be doing customized alerts for individuals. Will basically indicate the area that's going to be impacted, the estimated time that power will start to go off, the estimated time of that weather event, estimated time of when they hope to have the power on. So they're really trying to get more of that information out versus we hope to have the power on back in a few days kind of thing. Or if you guys remember from our October events, between the hours of 4 and 8, we're going to turn off the power. Okay, we think we're going to do it at 5. And then we would have to send updated SMC alerts when they were delayed in their announcements. And so that was something more impactful where they're trying to improve upon. They're also doing a lot more outreach to help AFN communities beforehand as well as during the event. So they have partnered with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers to provide assistance for equipment for individuals that might need them. Backup batteries, more portable chargers, et cetera. And we're fortunate enough that our CFL-ILC partner in San Mateo County is the Center for Independence, CID. and they're phenomenal. And so they've been doing a lot of really good work with various partners within the AFN community. And then some from what San Mateo County recommended is also with regards to the community resource centers, accessible transportation for people to reach these sites to get the information they need, and more fiscal assistance for these AFN communities with regards to hotel vouchers and food stipends. And then lastly, something that we'll also and have incorporated into our plan is the County Emergency Operations Center assistance. We're very fortunate with the agency representatives that we have, that we've had embedded into our EOC and available also up in San Francisco. They're also this time making available a GIS technical specialist. And Supervisor, you'd be very proud, our GIS team within ISD, they are phenomenal. And we've actually received this feedback from US EPA and FEMA from the fires with the type of data that we've been able to provide them. PG&E also has its own emergency operations center up in the city that they would allow potentially agency reps to go up there if need be. And then they're going to be developing situation reports once daily and then twice daily as they get closer to the events and during the events. And then of course, operational area conference calls. The last piece is one where we are providing constructive feedback to PG&E, where beforehand they would conduct the calls and provide the information, where going forward, they're looking at having their PG&E rep work with the operational area and the operational area lead the call. Well, that's not necessarily beneficial per se, where PG&E from their emergency operations center was providing better information. So with the ESC's help, we've actually provided that information back to PG&E in hopes that they change their status on that. So as I said, I will share the draft county plan with everyone. It has already been shared with your respective city emergency managers for their review and planning as well. And any updates that we may have, our next meeting isn't until January, but between now and then, any updates from PG&E that might impact our plan, we absolutely will make you aware. So that pretty much closes it up and back to you, Supervisor.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? I'm looking at the participant list. I don't see any raised hands. Are there any raised hands? I don't see any. Are there any questions from the board? All right, great. Thank you, Jeff, for that presentation. Item 7, announcements. Are there any announcements from the staff? Kevin?
For us, no, we're good.
No announcements, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That brings us to item 8. Are there any public comment, Madam Clerk?
No.
All right, so let me tell you our next meeting, our future Emergency Service Council meeting, ESC meeting, and this may change, but tentatively is January 21st to 2021. The reason I say that is potential bylaw changes and just some cleanup work administratively. Want to wish you all a Thursday night going into the weekend. Please be safe and enjoy your night, folks. Thank you very much. This meeting has adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.